everyone. Today was the last day of the quarter, and it did not disappoint with the shenanigans that the market usually does at quarter end. We saw quite a dip here in the morning, followed by a V-shaped bounce in the afternoon. And despite all the volatility that we saw today, the choppiness, we basically ended right in the same zone that we've been watching all week, right between this 570 level here and the 575. And you can see this is where all the gamma exposure is sitting in the options market. The majority of the GEX and the volume, which is here in the blue. We've been talking about this probably in our last 6 or 7 videos here on YouTube. So not surprising, we're bumping right into this dealer cluster level. And so we keep seeing dealer selling pressure coming in at these levels here. So it remains to be seen going into the new quarter whether or not we can actually break out of this zone to the upside, or if it's going to fail with more selling pressure coming in and take us back down to the 560 level, which is on the downside, which is our lower dealer cluster zone. So speaking of choppiness and volatility, Sean, I know you've been looking at the VIX almost every single day last week. Why don't you talk about what you're seeing heading into this next quarter?
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Definitely an interesting end of the quarter. I've noticed over time that the VIX tends to follow the 2-hour Keltner channel with the settings that I have. And what we said was that, it wouldn't be surprising to see the market hold up into the quarter end. And since the VIX had that big move, relatively big move, on Friday, right up to the top of that 2-hour Keltner channel, we said it wouldn't be surprising to see that come back down somewhat. And sure enough, that's what happened. You can see here we spiked above and then came back down, kind of left this bearish looking candle. However, notice that the Keltner channels are pointing up. So this to me looks bullish for volatility, and it wouldn't surprise me to see a volatile first few days of October.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, Sean, I noticed quite a bit of volume coming in today at some of these higher strikes here on the VIX. We saw volume coming in at 17, 18, and the biggest volume at 20. We're talking 40, 50,000 contracts at each of these higher strikes. So, I don't know. This could be investors just kind of reamping for Q3 volatility. We've got the election coming up. A lot of interesting things happening in the next 30 to 60 days in the market and geopolitics as well. So interesting that we're seeing all this volume coming in here on the last day of the quarter heading into Q3 as well. So now let's go through a few names that we're looking at for this week. Number one, I want to start off with is Meta. Meta is a name that we've been watching for a couple of weeks now. We actually put a trade on in our educational portfolio last week. We were targeting this 600 strike. This has been a major gamma exposure level here for the last couple of weeks. Interesting thing is, despite trading in this really narrow range for about 2 weeks now, we are still seeing volume come in almost every day at this 600 strike. Today, we actually had a large amount of volume coming in at the 580 strike. So these are strikes that are higher than where we're trading. We're trading really in the low 570s for most of today. I just think it's interesting that, all this volume's coming in, gamma exposure is higher. It really looks like market participants are expecting another leg higher here on the underlying in Meta. And so these are positions in the October and even out into November expirations. So that's something that we're already trading and we're going to continue to watch, but potentially putting on additional positions as the weeks go on.
Anthony, I'm going to take a look at Disney, actually. DIS is the ticker. And you can see on our gamma levels chart that we are above the zero gamma level. So we've got positive gamma, we're above zero gamma on Disney. And we have this really big volume as well as this big gamma cluster right at the dealer cluster zone that I think is a pretty good target. To me, the chart looks very overbought short term. We've got this red candle and it's way above the upper Keltner channel. However, remember that zero gamma level around that 92 area. Well, that also coincides with where it appears the middle Keltner channel is headed. Within a day or two, this should be at 92. What I'd like to see, and of course, the market doesn't care what I want, but I would be more interested in buying Disney if we saw a pullback maybe to this middle Keltner channel, and we go back and we see that the gamma 100 is still there. So the expiration for that is October 18. That's where most of it's concentrated. So I'm kind of in wait and see mode, but I'm watching as soon as tomorrow, very closely to see what happens with the price and the gamma in the coming days.
Yeah, that's a great one, Sean. Definitely something to watch in the coming days. Next, I want to talk about SMH. SMH is a semiconductor ETF. We've brought this up multiple times over the last couple of weeks. We've seen a pullback from this upper dealer cluster zone here just in the last few trading sessions, right off the zero gamma level. This is actually an interesting setup that we oftentimes trade in our community Discord, where on these pullbacks into the zero gamma level or into the lower dealer cluster zone, we'll oftentimes see reversals. And this just happens to be coinciding with the uptrend that we've been seeing here, over the last month or so in September. And so this is actually an interesting point for semiconductors overall. We've got volume coming in at these higher strikes here at the 260 level, as well as volume coming in today at the 245 level. So I think this is an interesting point in the market for semiconductors. Crucial zone here. Obviously, if this fails, there could be a quick move down to the downside, potentially into the 220 zone down here. However, if this does hold, and I think the current setup favors that this would hold here in this mid 240 range. Gamma exposure is all concentrated between the 250 and really all the way up to the 270 strike here. So a bounce, you have to pardon my chicken scratch here, but a bounce could send SMH in the coming weeks back into the 260 strike and even higher. So that's something we're going to be watching, not really necessarily playing SMH specifically, but this is our key to playing names like, AMD, or NVIDIA, obviously the big movers. They can really see some huge momentum coming through.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Anthony. I wanted to look at Gilead, which I just looked at today, actually. And what kind of caught my attention, of course, was that big gamma cluster at 90. And looking at the chart, what I don't necessarily like is it looks like price is holding underneath the whole moving average. But the Keltner channels are in a pretty steep uptrend. I mean, this looks like a bullish chart to me. And so what I would like to see is holding at least this 81 area, which is pretty close to where that zero gamma area is. And then, maybe as we get, this one maybe take a little longer, but as we get closer to November, maybe we can see a thrust, up toward the 90 area. So this is another one that I'm not buying yet, but I'll start watching it as soon as tomorrow morning.
By the way, if you guys are interested in accessing our gamma exposure tools and analytics on our dashboard, head over to geeksoffinance.com. You'll also get full access to our premium channels in Discord. We have a ton of great traders in there sharing information and their experiences. Something for everybody. You definitely want to check that out when you get a chance. I'll put a link to the Discord below as well. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.